So the other big trial of the day is obviously impeachment.
The other posting scandal.
Essentially.
I will freely admit. I just want to open this by saying I will freely admit I've not been following the impeachment. It's all a load of bullshit. And Trump will face no consequences. We already know what the outcome is going to be. And you know what I really view all of this? I'm surprised they're doing it now, but I guess they worked it out so they can do Senate business and impeachment at the same time. Don't know how, but Chuck figured
Well, Bernie
out a way.
kept saying you got to wrap up the Neapolitan here, and he kept cutting people off because he's like, I got to get to my other gig today.
See, that's why you don't double book a show. And what I really read this as is, when alcoholics, they go to detox and they get these, not benzos, but like anti-anxiety drugs, because if you go cold turkey, like you can die without it. You kind of have to like wean yourself off. That's what I think this is for
methadone
for the hashtag resistance. It's we can't quit Trump cold turkey. Like the dude's no longer on TV. You don't even get his posts to interact with.
I know.
Like what are these people doing? You don't even get to fantasize about him going to prison or anything. I mean, they still are, but there's just like no movement on that. All you get is so this is like throwing them. It's prescribing them a little something so they don't crash too hard. Like so we get like 2 weeks of this crap, so we get to relive the Capitol thing that happened 3,000 years ago, and we're meant to remember what a bad guy this is. And as a result, the only thing I've seen from it are the prosecution releasing these PowerPoint presentations, just like showing a bunch of posts that he liked.
I caught a significant part of the impeachment trial by accident because I actually had put it on court TV because I wanted to see some true crime stuff. And instead it was this bullshit. And it was right during the opening statement, I guess, for the prosecution. They showed this big, long video, their new timeline video where they showed minute by minute what's happening. And it made me think about like half of these motherfuckers are former prosecutors. You have to know how did they ever put anyone in jail if this is like the best case they can make against Donald Trump? Because what you saw in the video is you see him cheering on people, and then they cut to the real-time clip of like the cops not doing anything to the protesters and just kind of letting them walk around. It's like, wait, what's the problem here now? And they even include the clip of the cops shooting the woman in the fucking neck to prove that like Donald Trump is like the bad guy or the villain or responsible. I didn't understand.
It's because
what the point they were trying to make with this case. Like if your victim happens to shoot somebody in the head, you don't put that in the video that you show before the trial. It was just very bizarre to me. It didn't seem like they have much of a case. They're just trying to say, oh, Trump agitated them or something like that, and he's responsible for everything that happens, minutes, hours later. It was a very long video, and there's like 20 minutes without any Trump because minute by minute he actually was like at home when most of the shit was going down.
Did anybody watch any of the testimony today?
No.
Snooze
Okay,
fest.
so I feel like I gotta stop you guys because I gotta say the testimony today was very compelling, and I think you might really change your mind if you were to watch it.
About the Capitol attack?
Yeah. So in particular, Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands, I think did a really effective job of laying out the case. She had like at least two bites of the apple that I saw. And in the first one, it was the kind of PowerPoint format largely, but it was, there was like a graphic that showed where the mob was and where that initial police officer was within the Capitol, and then you could plot out kind of where all the Congress people were at the same time. So as she developed the case really in a really methodical manner that was rather impressive, just from like a fact building kind of case building standpoint, you got to see how close the encounters really were and the level of danger that the Congress members were in. So there was a really close near escape with Mitt Romney, where he was literally like walking down the hall about to encounter the folks that were breaking in through the window and was like stopped by a police officer and turned back, with moments to spare. There was a close encounter with Chuck Schumer. And there was a lot of new audio and video that hadn't been revealed before that showed the mob coming in from a different perspective. But that was pretty scary, to be honest.
But isn't Leslie's point that it's the relationship between Trump's words and those actions as opposed to the actual outcome? Although I don't want to speak for you, Leslie.
So the first part of the PowerPoint was that. So the first part of the PowerPoint was laying out all of the tweets and statements and speeches from Donald Trump and a chronology extending from before the election and then the days up into the election in which he was explicitly basically saying, come and do this. So I grabbed a couple of them that seemed like I hadn't seen them before because I don't follow Trump and, I don't hang on his every word breathlessly. But on January 6th, the speech that he gave, like after it had happened, when he was still saying, and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. You'll never take back your country with weakness. You have to show strength. You have to be strong. He also tweeted, these are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and peace. Remember this day forever. I mean, he was unrepentant. And there was a long string of, they showed like him cheering on the cars forcing the Biden bus off the road, all of the statements leading up to it, which were a lot more explicit than I had understood them to be, frankly. And I think that anybody watching it's not good for Republicans. And I think even though obviously he's not going to get impeached, and this is the same argument for force the vote, I think that there was real value to Americans hearing the case of just how bad what Trump did was.
He almost got Mitt Romney and Chuck Schumer killed. Is that the bad thing, Trump?
Leslie.
I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care about Mitt Romney and Chuck Schumer. Like
AOC. You don't like AOC?
I like AOC, but I just heard Mitt Romney and Chuck Schumer, and it just seems like it obviously is going nowhere. And I don't think, if this is my reaction, I don't think a single human being who voted for Trump is going to watch this and be like, oh wow, I regret my vote for Trump. No one, Republicans don't care about this. They want to win. They want to win. That's the difference.
I don't think this is going to make any Democratic converts out of anybody. But I think in the same way that Joe Biden just being a real pill has the ability to depress the vote, and Donald Trump was very savvy in realizing that or really just highlighting all the awful things that Hillary Clinton has done in her career had the effect of depressing the vote in 2016. I could see Republicans saying, well, I'm obviously not a Democrat and they suck too. But the fact that so many people in my party are still standing behind this kind of behavior, it's really difficult to defend. Murdering your own people's Congress. I don't expect you and I to care about, I don't expect you to care about Mitt Romney.
I mean, the Republicans, I don't think Republicans care if he had got, Trump came into power by insulting all the other Republicans, insulting their wives, saying they killed JFK. I just don't think this is going to be the thing where people are like, oh, finally, now we have to turn on Trump. Instead, it's going to be fuck you to the 5 Republicans that have, kind of waffled.
This isn't about Trump's 30%. This isn't about the people who support the insurrection. Like, we already know that. We're talking about the broader Republican cohort, the Mitt Romneys of the world, who are just rich people.
And non-political people, right? Right?
Yeah.
So, and all the non-voters whose job it's our job to influence their perceptions and discredit the Republican Party.
Yeah, but I think like the reason I caught this impeachment and the reason why Court TV was showing it was because there's a massive global pandemic and all the people who should be in court right now are stuck in prison. I honestly don't think with COVID going on that the average person is going to care about this, the Republicans still tying themselves to Trump. I think what people are going to be caring about is, not getting their fucking vaccine. All the kids, all the teachers and kids being sent back to school, not getting the money they were promised. I don't think this impeachment matters to almost anybody that isn't just looking for something good to watch on cable news. No one even, if you ask the average person, what are they already impeached him. If you ask the average person, what did they impeach Trump for? Could they actually lay it out and tell you in a clear way?
Right.
Well, this time they could. It was at the Capitol attack.
Right. Because here's the thing, Leslie. I'm not trying to be hard-headed about this.
Brooklyn dead. I was
literally making your argument until I saw the footage. right? Like
Because they
I was
got
literally
to you through
making
emotion. That means that Leslie's still reasonable. He hasn't been suckered.
They got to me
kind of.
because I'm watching look, I think that there is the focus is would be better spent on other issues 100%. I think there is an element of this that is, I don't want to say self-indulgent, but with all of the attention that you can demand in this moment, the fact that it's not being used for something like Medicare for All or $2,000 checks is on some level offensive. I agree with all of that. But I also think the fact of the matter is there was a lot of footage of the events in the Capitol that I have never seen before that was actually new, and that it has never been laid out chronologically in a way that tells a narrative about what Donald Trump's immediate participation in all of it was. And it was a really compelling case that shifted me from this is a bunch of wild banshees that are like caught wreaking havoc to, oh, this was a really concerted project that they talked about how Trump's like Secret Service knew about all of the postings and the message boards and what the Capitol Police did and did not do and how many plans were explicitly laid out on the internet and what they could have anticipated, but the delay of the National Guard and all of that sort of thing. Go ahead, Katie.
I mean, I think that that's a kind of more interesting and important question to look at. Like, what were the intelligence decisions and the security decisions, the police decisions? Because those are, they're still there. I think that, like, I'm sure, and it's interesting. I think I kind of agree with you both, because I think that if I saw this footage, I would be really disturbed and be like, I'd view Trump as more culpable. Then there's the other question of like, well, how much more do we now know he did than we knew before versus like how much more visceral is your feeling about it, understandable after seeing footage. But I still do think that the decision to subject Americans to this, right, take time and money, and I don't know how much the impeachment costs, but like I do think it's so offensive that while there are people who are dying, who need, immunization shots, who need the money that they were promised, like there is something like that can hold, like that is less urgent. Like that discourse around the urgency of the impeachment, I think is fucked up, because I think that, to the extent that we need to actually like save people, you know what I mean? Like for all the discourse, and you're not doing this, Brie, but the discourse around saving democracy or saving people's lives, Americans are suffering like that. Let's get to work on that.
And there's one point I want to make, even if you think that the impeachment is worthwhile because of, the political capital it might gain Democrats to embarrass the Republicans like this, COVID is the biggest thing you could have land in your lap to give you all the political capital in the world to do absolutely anything you want.
It's not just about political capital, though. Like, I would have said this same thing going into this, but look, there is kind of it's kind of a thing that thousands of people planned and came to the Capitol with weapons and used blunt objects to break down the windows, climb in the windows. A woman gets shot in the neck. They showed the footage of a woman getting shot very viscerally today, and then all of that went down.
Did they arrest the cop who did it? We're not talking about like arresting Leslie, the cop who shot that woman.
Wait a minute. But all of that went down at the president's urging. A president participated in an election, lost the election, spent the next few weeks instigating people to come to the Capitol, and then as it was all coming to fruition, cheered and was like apparently watching it all happen on TV like it was a reality TV show, and his staff was horrified by this fact. I mean, grain of salt, because his staff is also horrible. And then after it all pans out, still demonstrates no remorse, still like didn't officially
I thought his speech in real time, this is going to get me so canceled. I actually thought for Trump, if his goal was to like de-escalate, I actually think his speech was effective. I do, because if I'm a Trump person and he like for Trump, he was like, respect the law enforcement officers. Like, I think that sometimes we forget, like, given that Trump is who he is, what would have been the best way? And of course, he could have been much more direct.
Right, but that's grading on a curve. The man said, and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight, you're not going to have a country anymore. You'll never take back your country with weakness. You have to show strength. You have to be strong.
But he also, I mean, I know it's grading on a curve, but honestly, I don't know So I think this was the most effective way.
But the question was it good for Trump? That's not the question. The question is, what kind of precedent do you want to set? Do you want to say he did this and he's gone now, fine? Or do you
but I also don't want to set the precedent where Democrats let people die because they don't get them immunized, or let people die because they don't take.
It's also not a zero-sum game. Like, I understand the prioritization here.
I think there's a hierarchy of urgency. I really do, and I get what you're saying, and I just think that it is so easy to put resource. And I'm not being dismissive of this. I saw this footage, and it's scary, and the fact that the stuff he said is scary, and it is scary to think that all these people could have been killed, that someone was killed. But I do think that it is on the left needs to keep the pressure to the extent that we have any power. So maybe that's a moot point. But the really outrageous stuff, that is outrageous, and there could have been people killed, and there were people killed. But the really outrageous stuff, I think, is the systemic structural stuff that just very subtly is killing countless people, versus that thing which is very obviously symbolic. And I'm not dismissing it. I'm not dismissing the climate of fear, of hatred, and racism that it stokes. But I just do think that it's people should be screaming about the other stuff.
I think, I think there is a way to kind of reconcile the different points of view here, which is, the impeachment would feel, certainly it's much more legitimate than the first impeachment, which I really can't even remember. I mean, there is actually a thing that happened. It is a thing the president did that he should probably be held accountable for. But the impeachment is frustrating in part because there is that very strong sense that the Democratic Party cares a lot more about this than anything else, and that they wish it could go on for the next 4 years and they could just keep impeaching Trump over and over and over in order to find some way to not have anyone talk about Joe Biden's record and not talk about COVID relief. And that is what makes it frustrating, and that is what makes people. And in fact, if they showed they were serious, if they weren't fudging the numbers of the checks and such in the other hours of the day, it would be much easier for us to say, yes, the impeachment matters and is important and is worth paying attention to.
When we were talking about force of vote, there were people who were saying, well, you should be talking about $2,000 checks. You're distracting from the main issue. So there's always going to be, obviously, I think both of those issues are more important, have more substantive impact on real people than these impeachment hearings, which only affect, members of Congress and, quote unquote, the democracy, I guess. But I think that can be kind of just a wedge to act like people can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I woke up this morning, crammed on $15 minimum wage, did a $15 minimum wage hit, and then watched impeachment. You can focus on everything and think about a lot of things at the same time. All I'm saying is that watching the actual footage today, I think laying out the case the way it was laid out today was important because it created a historical record that I, up until this point, really hadn't seen. And if it was able to have such a dramatic impact on kind of the weightiness that I feel about this issue, I think it's worth having done. Now, should it go on for 2 weeks? Blah, blah, blah. That's a different issue in my book.
Yeah, I guess just my thing of it is, it's not we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but they actually don't want to. The reason this is a priority is because it happened to them, right? If 6 Americans died in any other incident anywhere else, you're not having this rigmarole, this big thing from Congress, right? This is a priority to them because it was something that they were involved in. They rushed to do this. Does anyone feel like their lives are a priority? I don't know about anybody else on this call, but I know that, people in my life are facing under threat of death, of illness, of losing their jobs because of this ongoing thing. Just the reducing the checks from 2,000 to 1,400, that will almost certainly result in more dead people than this Capitol riot, right? If you actually go down the line of people who are going to get evicted because they don't have that money, who have to turn to the street, so what are we actually talking about? If you're actually talking about if we're talking about priorities, it's Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage. 1/6, very, very low, I think, even though it's a big news story and involves lots of famous and rich people. I don't think it's the priority right now for America. It is so far down the list. I don't think there is any excuse for a single sitting, politician to spend even 1 second doing anything that is not directly about righting COVID and doing something about COVID. And the Democrats are so far away from that. They are not walking and chewing gum at the same time. Biden is saying to send teachers back to school. Like this is the Democrats. That is going to kill way more people all over the country.
There's no disagreement there. I maintain that these are not mutually exclusive. And also, if we weren't doing impeachment, these people aren't going to be passing $2,000 checks. They're still not doing a $15 minimum wage. Would our ability to focus on that perhaps be better? Maybe, but they do a pretty good job not listening to us absent something dramatic regardless.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying they're garbage. I'm not saying that there's an alternative.
Two different questions.
To me, I just don't like putting those things up against each other. The fact of the matter is, I also think that the left sometimes does itself a disservice by not giving an easy acknowledgement of something that is also bad. It's so much easier to argue impeachment was bad, and I understand why people want justice. Also, we should be concentrating on $2,000 checks. Then I don't give a damn what happens to Congress people. They should just shut up and stop stop whining and focus on our issues. I understand, emotionally, I sometimes understand what feeling in that second space, but publicly, I just think that it's not. I don't want to I'd rather spend my time not arguing whether or not they're justified in feeling bad or whether AOC's life was really in danger and all of these kind of silly fights that we get into sometimes on the left. I don't need
Leslie's
to argue
not
about
doing that. And we've said this with Force the Vote. People have different roles, and I think it is really refreshing, honestly, to hear Leslie say what he has to say. And I think it's an important, it's an important part of the spectrum. I think that there can be I don't think this applies to Leslie. I've heard people talk about this in a way that I think is counterproductive and overly vilifying of AOC, and I think it's very stupid. But I just do think that it's important for some people to hear people say, I don't feel like anyone cares about me, and they're doing this and not the other thing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, up until today, I was literally making the exact argument. My only perspective, and I'm just trying to impart this because apparently I'm the only one who actually watched the footage today. I want to save all of you from perhaps being a little in hot water tomorrow because the footage was really compelling. And so you can take that or leave it. That's all I'm saying.
Leslie Lee, I, all day, every day. Come get some.
You guys just started talking. I was like, oh goodness, they're saying this having not seen the footage, and they might feel differently.
I interviewed a guy who was Leslie Lee was there, this guy who was help riling up the crowd, and so I know that it was awful. I guess I just do think, and look, it can be annoying when the left are like, well, what? And I've found this annoying that that wasn't. I don't think that was a coup. I don't think it was an attempted coup. But just saying well, what about Chile 1973, September 11th? That's not, I get that, obviously, and that's not, I don't expect people not to be scared because the United States has a history, recent and long and storied, of, overthrowing governments and supporting extremely violent coups. I agree that there can be an oversimplification. We're not 5 years old. We don't have to make it one or the other. We can say that, this was not a coup or an attempted coup, just because it didn't have the coordination or the armed forces coordination or infiltration, I think. But that I would be scared if I had been AOC.
Yeah, there was some footage of folks trolling the hallways and shouting, hollering, Pelosi, where are you,
they're
Pelosi?
really scary. Yeah, one of them was wearing a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt.
And so there's...
Was it Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay, I had to go in.
They were, actively, one of the, points that was being made was that, yes, I understand. We've talked at length on the podcast about the technical definition of a coup, but the stated goal of the infiltrators was to stop the certification of the election by finding the people involved, zip tying them, and potentially killing them. And doing that would have slowed things down. I'm not really sure what happens if you kill enough members of Congress that they can't certify the results of an election. Like I don't know.
But I don't
when
think that was anywhere close to happen. They had all the Capitol Police there with
Right.
with
So if
armed guns. You need more than zip ties to take over Congress. If all it took was zip ties, me and Nathan would be down there right now. I think.
So they had more than zip ties.
But,
they had guns. They had stun guns.
But they didn't have enough to overpower the Capitol Police.
And I think when you watch the footage, that's exactly what it demonstrates, exactly how close they were to doing exactly that, killing people, like very, very close. Like that is the point I'm trying to make, that there were some very, very near misses there that are really chilling. And so if someone had turned down the hallway at a different time, if a police officer hadn't gone to a certain place, we could have had a very different outcome. And I don't think it's wrong to want to at least have a conversation that enables safeguards so we don't end up in that situation again.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that Congress should talk to their security guards that work for them and fortify. Like, that is the solution. That is the thing. If the safety protocols aren't in place at your office workplace, then you address that. Like, that way you don't say that we need to have an impeachment trial that all the country needs to be invested in because this is one of the most important things that has happened to the country. I just don't feel like that is what this impeachment.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't even necessarily think it has to be impeachment, but I do think that the case has to be laid out. And I don't know if they were like sitting on this stuff because they wanted to save it for impeachment, or if there was just like not very good reporting or something. But the story was told better today than I've ever heard it told. So whether it's in the context of impeachment or elsewhere, this kind of a record I think is important.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we're all on this panel. This is what we do for a living, and none of us watched it but you. So how many people are even going to see the specific good case that you saw? So I don't think a lot of people are going to see that particular video that you saw that won you over, and most people are just going to be going on with their lives and being like, why are they still impeaching Trump? I thought they already impeached him. He's not. No, they're going to say he's not president anymore. Like, why are they still impeaching him? I think that's going to be the reaction from most people living out their day-to-day lives. And then also, like, where is the check? When do I get my vaccine? Where can I get my vaccine? Are my kids going back to school, safe schools? Like, there's so many things. There's so much bigger and more important that the Democrats absolutely positively, if they actually cared either about helping people or even their political futures, they would be focusing on before the impeachment. You would be sending out checks. You would be handing out monies. You would be actually have a COVID plan that you promised to have on day one, which you do not have. Like, nothing is happening. Instead, we have people like asking for retweets for like $15 an hour. And like, I don't know, this is like the biggest opportunity that the Democrats have had to just push for whatever they need to do to help people, to hand people money, send people checks. And instead, they're impeaching Trump again after he's out of office. Can anyone explain, if you were in Congress, would anyone make that choice? If you were someone in a party that wanted to win, just wanted to win, would this be the thing you're focusing on right now, or would it be saving the country from COVID?
I reject the binary, but I do think that the argument that's being made is that Donald Trump, I mean, obviously he's out of office, and the legal case that the Trump team is making is that it's unconstitutional to impeach him because he's out of office, and the response from the Democrats is that impeachment is also to prevent you from running again, and that there is a case that some people have been making that if Kamala Harris, let's say, were the nominee in 2024, that Trump coming back could probably best a whole lot of Republican candidates and end up ultimately beating Kamala Harris.
Yeah, maybe they should govern. Maybe they should govern then. Maybe if they can't beat Donald Trump in 4 years, then they don't deserve to win.